when I shared that Dominic and I are going, we planned a big Europe trip, I had some people ask how we do it on a budget, so I thought I would share. I wrote down some tips that we do when we travel, because we kind of pride ourselves in how we travel pretty inexpensively. Obviously it's still somewhat expensive, but we really try to make it affordable. Side note, if you hear kids screaming or cars driving by, it's because I'm in my backyard just hanging out. So anyway, yes, we are going to Europe for a little over 14 days. It's like 10 work days and there's some holidays. So it is going to be a big trip. It's expensive. We're going to Lisbon, Rome, Venice, the Amalfi Coast, and Bled. So we're giving ourselves about 2 to 3 days in each place and trying to find how we are going to do it somewhat affordable, because either way, if you think about it, that's 2 weeks of hotels, 2 weeks of eating out. So we definitely went into the mindset of how we can make this just even slightly more affordable. So the first thing I wrote down, if you see me looking down, is because I have a paper with my tips, or what we're doing, written down. So the first thing is our flights. We do this with all of our international trips. We follow flight deals. So we weren't like, oh, we want to go to Lisbon. There was a great deal to get to Lisbon, and then at that point we plan our trip accordingly with what's near, because once you get there, it's cheap and easy to kind of fly around within. So we use Google Flights, and or Skyscanner, and on Skyscanner you can put in like everywhere, and it will show you like cheap if you have set days. But we found our flights for this on Google Flights. They were having a deal. We were able to book directly through the airline, which is nice, because with COVID, if there's cancellations or anything, that way, like worst case scenario, we get flight credit, but it has to get canceled. So that's the first thing we do to save money when we book any trip, is we use Google Flights, and sometimes we fly out of different airports. We always explore like the surrounding airports around us, because a lot of times it's a big enough price difference that it's cheaper to fly to that place and then fly to Europe. So with our Germany trip as well, and our upcoming trip, we are flying out of San Francisco, and we have a Southwest credit card where we get points, so we can either use points to fly to San Francisco, or it's not that expensive of a flight. It still saves us money. So that's something we do to make it cheaper for us, is we don't always fly out of Las Vegas like directly to Europe. We explore like LAX, just literally any surrounding airport that could possibly make it a little more inexpensive. Like I said, we're also not picky about where we go. We want to see everywhere. So like I said, there was a great deal to Lisbon. Like we paid a little over $400 round trip for our flights to Europe and back. Well, it's from Lisbon and back, and that's amazing. That's actually, I think, too, the most we've ever paid. When we went to Germany, I think it was 3-something round trip. Same with when we went to Spain, it was 3-something round trip. So yeah, we don't spend a ton of money on our flights. Second thing we do to make traveling affordable for us is, like specifically for this Europe trip, is Airbnbs. So our goal was to hopefully have every night under $100 where we're staying, because over 14 days it adds up. So that's kind of our goal. We were able to stick with it. Besides the Amalfi Coast, that's going to be a little more expensive, but everything else we were able to do 100 or under a night. We also chose Airbnbs because we'll need to wash clothes. It has a kitchen, so we can cook some food, save some money there, and it was cheaper than hotels. And we even have like a hotel discount thing, and so in Lisbon we're staying in hotels, but everywhere else we're staying in Airbnbs, and it was more affordable that way. So all of our Airbnbs, besides 3 of the nights when we're in the Amalfi Coast, are under $100 a night, which saves so much money throughout the whole thing. Another way we're saving money is transportation. So when we booked our Airbnbs, we made sure that they were within walking distance places, so that we're not constantly having to Uber or rent a car. We don't do any renting of a car when we're in Europe, and we just really, that's how you get like your workout in. You're walking everywhere. if we do need transportation, we do public transportation, even like from the airport. Sometimes we'll do public transportation like to get to our hotel or wherever we're staying. So we save a ton of money that way because we pretty much walk everywhere. I remember when we first went to Spain, that was our first international trip together. I remember Dom was like, you have to wear tennis shoes. Like, you're not wearing fancy shoes, you're not wearing sandals. Like, you have to wear tennis shoes because we're gonna be doing so much walking, which he was definitely right. I'm so glad that I did end up wearing just tennis shoes because you're able to like just be more comfortable and walk everywhere. So that is another way we save money. The next way we save money would be, we don't go to like fancy restaurants, but again, this is a different priority for everybody. For us, eating at fancy restaurants isn't a high priority. We would rather spend that money on like an excursion or some activity or something like that. So that's a way we definitely cut our costs when we're traveling, and we will with this trip, is we don't go to fancy food places. When we were in Switzerland, the food was so expensive, like even just like normal food, like a Caesar salad with like no chicken was like $45 and things like that. So we ended up having, that was the place we've had to get the most creative with finding inexpensive food because it was so expensive. Another thing that we are doing for this trip to save money is we're booking a lot of things ahead of time. So one thing that's nice with Airbnb is we get charged ahead of time. So it's not like all of the charges, you're already gonna be spending money and a lot of charges coming out when you're there. So it's nice that we've been able to pay for the Airbnbs up front, which we're fine with doing as long as they have like free cancellation, just to protect ourselves in case something happens. And it avoids like that lump sum that you're already going to be spending while you're there. So that helps us. I don't know if that necessarily helps us save money that they come out like earlier, but it definitely like mentally is nice to not see like as much charges when you come home, you know, because you've already paid for some stuff. And it helps you budget it a little better because you can save ahead of time. And yeah, so my next tip I have written down of things, this truck is loud. Okay. My next thing we do when we travel out of the country is we have a card that we know doesn't have foreign transaction fees. Those can really add up, so we save a ton of money by just eliminating those and not having foreign transaction fees. And we also get local currency before we leave, so we don't do it at the airport. I've done it once at the airport and I can't remember if it was a bad deal or a good deal. It was just like at the point where I needed local currency. Excuse me. So yeah, we do local currency. One, even just having local currency before you get there is nice. Sometimes things are a little cheaper when you can pay with their currency instead of using a card, because a lot of times they have to pay for like the card machine, so they might charge you more. And also if it's like somehow a price that's like negotiating, you know, like it's just easier to have cash for most things. So we definitely do that ahead of time. We get quite a bit. Here in Vegas, there's a place down by the Strip that does a really good rate. So we always go there before we leave. And it doesn't even take that long to get it all ahead of time, like for them to get the cash like a week in advance or something. So yeah, those are, as we've been planning our trip, I'm like, we should just share as we go things we're doing to help us save money, because we're definitely trying to save money on this trip because it's so long. And either way, it's going to be expensive, which we're totally fine with. We obviously budget for traveling, but obviously it's nice to save money wherever you can. So those are our tips, and we're still planning our trip right now. We have like one more Airbnb to book. Other than that, then like all of our lodging's booked, our flights are booked. We just kind of have to do the transportation from like city to city, but once you're over there, it's really not that expensive to go from city to city. And then like our activities we still have to do. So I'll share more as we are planning and booking everything, but I just wanted to share what we've done so far to make like traveling internationally cheaper, and what we've done like in the past. Enjoyed these tips. I'll share more in the future if we come across more. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, you should subscribe. Definitely have a goal I'm trying to reach on here, so if you subscribed, I would be eternally grateful. But anyway, that's gonna be it, and I will see you in my next video.